Have you ever noticed how some days you're incredibly sharp, energized, and focused, while on other days you can't seem to concentrate no matter what you do? It feels like you're either on top of the world or completely exhausted. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about how much you worked the day before. In fact, even after a restful day, you can still feel drained. Today, we're going to uncover why that happens and talk about two simple habits you're probably doing that are secretly sabotaging your energy. Let's begin by exploring something fascinating. Your brain is designed to regulate its own energy levels, just like the rest of your body. This self-regulation process is what allows you to feel sharp and focused on good days and exhausted on others. But the twist is that these changes in your cognitive performance aren't always tied to how much work or physical effort you've put in the days before. Think about it. Have you ever had one of those days where everything just clicks? You're focused, productive, and things seem to flow effortlessly. But then, without any clear reason, the very next day you wake up feeling groggy, exhausted, and mentally foggy. Or maybe the opposite happens. You've been burning the candle at both ends, pushing yourself physically and mentally, but somehow you wake up the next day feeling refreshed and energized. It's confusing, right? Because we expect there to be a simple cause and effect relationship. The more effort we put in, the more tired we should be. Or if we rest enough, we should feel refreshed the next day. But often, that's not the case. What if I told you that two everyday behaviors, which most of us do without even thinking, are wreaking havoc on your brain's ability to regulate its energy? These behaviors aren't complex or obscure. They're things we all do, and they're so ingrained in our routines that we often overlook their impact. Today, we're going to unpack what these behaviors are and how they could be the root cause of your unexplained exhaustion. But before diving into these two key behaviors, let me first explain a bit about how your brain manages energy and attention throughout the day. Much like your muscles get tired after a physical workout, your brain also tires out after cognitive work. When you're engaging in mental tasks, whether it's reading, solving problems, managing stress, or even having conversations, your brain cells, called neurons, are firing. Every time a neuron fires, it releases chemicals that help with brain signaling, such as neurotransmitters like glutamate and dopamine. As these neurotransmitters are released, they don't just disappear. Over time, they build up in your brain, and this accumulation is actually a signal to your body that it's time to rest. Think of it like a warning light in your car when the engine gets too hot. Your brain does the same thing. It builds up these byproducts of neuronal activity that trigger fatigue and eventually the need for sleep. As you go through your day, the more mental effort you exert, whether through working, studying, dealing with emotions, or even interacting with others, your brain builds up these substances, and by the end of the day, this accumulation signals that it's time to slow down. This is called sleep pressure, the body's natural urge to sleep. Now, when you finally hit the pillow at night and fall into a deep sleep, your brain doesn't just rest. It actually switches into what we can call cleaning mode. This is a fascinating process. During sleep, specifically deep sleep, a fluid in your brain called cerebrospinal fluid floods your brain tissue and washes away all the metabolic byproducts that have built up throughout the day. This process literally refreshes your brain, washing away substances like adenosine, a chemical that plays a key role in making you feel tired. When this cleaning process is complete, you should wake up feeling refreshed and ready to go. In theory, this is how things are supposed to work. But here's where things get tricky. Two specific behaviors can disrupt this natural cycle and prevent your brain from properly managing its energy and alertness. Let's break them down one by one. One of the biggest culprits is something that many of us rely on to get through the day: caffeine. Whether it's in your morning coffee, afternoon energy drink, or even those sneaky chocolate treats, caffeine has become a staple for maintaining energy and focus. But here's the thing. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine, the very chemical your brain produces to signal tiredness. Adenosine builds up in your brain the longer you're awake, and its accumulation is one of the main reasons you feel tired at night. When you consume caffeine, it blocks adenosine from binding to its receptors in your brain, which prevents you from feeling sleepy. Now, while caffeine can help you stay alert in the short term, it's important to understand that it doesn't actually reduce adenosine levels in your brain. It just masks the feeling of tiredness. So, while you might feel more awake after drinking a cup of coffee, the adenosine is still there, building up. Once the caffeine wears off, all that accumulated adenosine hits your brain at once, and you experience a crash, which leaves you feeling even more tired than before. To make matters worse, caffeine has a half-life of about 5 to 6 hours. This means that if you drink a cup of coffee at 3 p.m., half of the caffeine is still in your system at 9 p.m., potentially disrupting your ability to fall asleep. And if you don't sleep well, you'll wake up tired the next day. So what do? You reach for more coffee and the cycle continues. But the real problem is that over time, your brain adapts to this constant caffeine intake by increasing the number of adenosine receptors. This means you need more and more caffeine to get the same wakefulness effect, leading to caffeine dependence. And this dependence on caffeine creates a vicious cycle. You feel tired, so you drink coffee, but the caffeine keeps you awake at night, disrupting your sleep. You wake up tired again, so you drink more coffee, and on it goes. Over time, this not only leads to poor sleep quality, but also leaves you feeling more exhausted during the day, even though you're consuming more caffeine than ever before. Now let's talk about something even more prevalent in today's world: digital overstimulation. Every time you check your phone, scroll through social media, or consume content online, you're stimulating your brain. Your brain loves novelty. Every time you get a new notification, a new like, or see a new post, your brain releases a burst of dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This is why checking your phone feels so good in the moment. It's like a mini reward system that keeps you coming back for more. But here's the downside. This constant barrage of digital information doesn't just make you feel good, it keeps your brain in a heightened state of alertness. Over time, this leads to mental fatigue. Your brain, which is wired to deal with short bursts of stimulation followed by rest, is now dealing with constant, never-ending input. And this overstimulation makes it incredibly difficult for your brain to shut down when it's time to sleep. You might have noticed this yourself. You're about to go to bed, but you check your phone one last time, and suddenly you're caught up in an endless scroll of news, social media, or emails. Before you know it, an hour has passed, and when you finally do try to sleep, your mind is still racing. This is because the blue light emitted by screens interferes with the production of melatonin, the hormone that helps regulate your sleep-wake cycle. As a result, digital overstimulation not only makes it harder for you to fall asleep, but it also reduces the quality of your sleep. And when your sleep quality suffers, so does your ability to focus, concentrate, and think clearly the next day. Now, what happens when these two behaviors, excessive caffeine consumption and digital overstimulation, work together? They create a vicious cycle that can be incredibly difficult to break. You're tired, so you drink coffee. The caffeine blocks adenosine, keeping you awake, but it also disrupts your sleep. You wake up exhausted, so you reach for more caffeine, masking the problem but never actually addressing it. Meanwhile, you're constantly bombarding your brain with digital stimuli, keeping your mind in a state of overdrive, preventing it from properly winding down at night. Over time, this cycle leads to chronic fatigue. Your brain becomes less able to regulate its own energy levels, and you're left feeling mentally drained, even when you're not doing anything particularly strenuous. So, how do you break free from this cycle? It starts with awareness. Once you recognize the impact these behaviors are having on your energy levels and mental clarity, you can start making small but meaningful changes. For caffeine, try cutting back gradually. Avoid drinking coffee in the afternoon and see how it affects your sleep. You might find that you sleep more deeply and wake up feeling more refreshed, even with less caffeine. For digital overstimulation, try setting boundaries. Limit your screen time before bed and give your brain the chance to wind down naturally. Engage in activities that promote relaxation, like reading a book, practicing mindfulness, or even just having a conversation with a friend. By making these small changes, you can help your brain regain its natural balance. And when your brain is balanced, you'll find that you have more energy, focus, and mental clarity, without the need for constant stimulation or caffeine.